Hey, real estate rock stars. It is Christina Leavenworth, your host. And today we are talking to Spencer Hsu out of the Bay Area. And this guy is crushing it on YouTube. He says that YouTube has completely changed his business and changed his life. You are going to love what he has to say. All right, rock stars, now it is time to hear from Spencer Hsu out of the Bay Area. And this guy is absolutely killing it and is going to give us some actionable nuggets of things that you can do today in your business to grow it. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much for the opportunity, and it's good to be back.
Absolutely. So first of all, I just would love to hear a little bit about your story, how you got into real estate, the whole shebang.
Yeah, certainly. So my previous background prior to real estate was in software sales. So I'm here in the San Francisco Bay Area. My first decade of my career was in tech sales. And so I did that for a decade, switched from one company to another, and I just didn't feel or get much satisfaction for a variety of things. One, the bosses that I was reporting to. To just the people that I would ultimately talk to. It was a pretty small and kind of lonely world. And I realized I needed to find something where I can control a little bit more of my own destiny. And so I first got into real estate actually through listening to different podcasts like yours and many others to just kind of figure out like what could I do in the real estate industry. And I actually first started off by flipping homes.
Okay.
So I did a few house flips in the Bay Area. I did a few out-of-state investing, kind of dibbled and dabbled to see what is out there. And as I went through that journey of flipping homes, I got to talk to a lot of realtors, right, in the local area. So I got to understand how they operate, what was life going to be like. But I also wasn't very impressed with a lot of the people that I was talking to. And they were not like nobodies. They were actually doing a good amount of production. So I realized, look, if I have this analytical approach and I have my own way of doing things, that I feel like it could be a tremendous value add for other clients and other people, that's a potential way for me to be able to carve out my own niche. And fortunately, that was the right approach and it worked really well. And so I'm here at the show again.
So did you quit your tech sales job cold turkey and jump into real estate, or did you try to do both at the same time?
So it's funny. I did both at the same time for sure. And I think at this point, I don't think I'm ever going to be hired by anyone anyway. So I'm happy to share the story. So I never did a entrepreneurship like role or job ever, right? In the sense of like not having that mindset or not having that W-2 check every other week, right? Neither did anyone in my family. So it's very, very foreign, and it was not even a thing to even consider. And so for me, I was like, look, I want to hedge my bets, right? In the sense of I'm going to do real estate full time. But fortunately, I found a company that really didn't track me at all. And so I got the big 6-figure W-2 paycheck by doing nothing there.
Mhm.
And I got to do real estate. The funny and interesting part is the first 6-7 months, I didn't do any transactions. Now I knew I was doing the work. Right. I knew I was putting in the work. I knew it was a matter of time. Like I was having conversations, doing open houses, all this stuff. It was a matter of time before something happened, but there's nothing to show for it yet. And eventually they found out that I wasn't doing anything, which was like, okay, kind of a surprise that it took that long because I literally wasn't doing anything. And so they fired me. Right. And so they fired me, but that was really the turning point, because I would say probably about a month after I got my first 2 closings. And then it was also really good because I wasn't looking for another job at that time. I was like, wow, I ran this for 6 months. It was longer than I thought I could run this out for. Now I have no choice. I got to do this well. And then fortunately, those unfolded, and then it really snowballed anyways. But that was kind of the backstory where, yeah, I was very fortunate to have gotten a very significant paycheck. But it wasn't even the money. It was just the mental aspect of it, right? Like I never, like I said, never did a job that was completely on its own, like real estate before. So
A lot of times you hear the people that have the most success, it's usually when they are pushed into that corner going, oh my gosh, I have nothing. This has to work. I have no other options. And I think that a lot of people find great success out of that. So, you're doing open houses, you're making relationships, doing all the things. Kind of talk to me about like your production and kind of like where you started and where you are today.
So it's been about 7 years since I've been in the business. So time goes by really quick. And my first year, as I mentioned, the first 7 months didn't do anything. Like it didn't close anything. But that first year already ended at like 10 million in production.
Wow.
And then, so it was still a really good like second half for sure, right? And then the second year already ramped up big time because of a lot of the first stuff with the first year. So the second year already got up to like 40 something million. And then the third year I was already at like 80 million.
And this is,
So
are
it
you
ramped up
doing
like
it
really,
solo?
really. Sorry.
You were doing it solo?
Yeah, it was all solo. I didn't have like a solo, as in I didn't have other agents, but I had like obviously admin and support and things like that, right? So it was very lean and really really profitable. And then after that, it dipped. I started growing a team, and so it got into this aspect of the messy middle, which I'm still technically in right now. So it kind of dropped then. But then it's been consistent now. Like last year was probably our best year. And so we did about like 84 million last year. And this year is probably going to be similar, but I will probably work less from a time in perspective. So that's kind of been the trajectory. Now, some of it was also influenced just certainly by the markets, right? I think my lowest year maybe like a 40, $50 million year after that 80 million year. And I think that was the year after it was either the year of the interest rate completely tanking, so that was pretty bad, or it's the following year. I don't remember exactly.
Yeah, we don't like to remember those years.
Yeah.
We'd rather
That's
remember
a
like
little
the
bit different.
2021s of the record breaking. So
Yeah.
now you have a team, you're still in production. Tell me about that.
Yes, yeah. So as I did really well that third year, basically, I was like, look, I have too many leads, and I still do have technically too many leads. So I was like, look, I want to bring in other people, get in the habit of training them, getting them up to speed, and if they learn from me, they can hopefully improve. And so that's been that journey. And so that was the idea of why I wanted to grow a team, and why I still have a team, and why I'm still bringing on other agents. So certainly, if there's anyone in the Bay Area that's looking to partner with me, then I want to be connected. But it was mainly for that. It was also a different challenge, right? Going from a solo agent to being a manager is a completely different hat and a completely different part of the brain. And so it was a good, exciting challenge for me to take on back then and still try to do today, because that's really the only way I can scale and to grow, at least on the overall kind of strategy and overall plan per se.
So those are some crazy numbers from like 10 million to 40 million to 80 million. How'd you do that?
It was really a combination of just being consistent with what we were doing. We knew we were putting the right work, right? And so we knew like as long as we didn't mess things up, this was just going to naturally grow, because we knew we had like not necessarily specifically a unique value proposition, but unique enough that people can see the difference between us and somebody else. But during that time, a big part of the growth was also right when COVID was about to start. So that was about 2020, right? And so during 2020, there was at least in the Bay Area, about like a 3-week period that it was complete lockdown. And during that time is when there was a lot of news saying like everything was crashing, everything was ending. But I knew what was actually happening on the local level. Like it wasn't crashing. Now, obviously it was stalled, but it wasn't like everything was tanking. And so when I saw those news reports, I was like, that's not true. And so I need to get my voice out to be able to be like, look, this is the reality of what's actually happening. And maybe some people will watch it. I don't know. And so that's actually how YouTube came into the fold, was actually then. And so this was back in 2020. I was like, look, I'm going to be giving data-driven thoughts about what's really happening, also showing the data, and also providing my thoughts in some videos. And that kind of led to that as a pillar. And if you fast forward today, like YouTube specifically, not talking about video, like YouTube specifically, only on YouTube without ads, like probably does about 20% of the business.
Wow.
And so, but it was really through then that we're like, all right, I couldn't go out anyways. There was nothing else to watch on Netflix. And so like, I want to put some content out that's helpful. And then that kind of just led to the progression of improving that lead source.
So, there's a lot of different YouTube strategies, the whole like moving to or being the local news person. Tell me about what your YouTube channel was. What was the niche?
So the niche in the beginning was because every area will have its own strategies, right? So one needs to kind of figure out what was happening. The Bay Area isn't one of those markets where you're going to have a mass amount of people coming in, like in Florida or Texas at that time. That's not going to ever happen. But there is a good amount of people that will relocate within the Bay Area because the Bay Area has like 6-7 million people. You also have people that are from international or from out of the area that are coming from a really high paying work opportunity, right? So that's kind of the specifics, right, as to like who I can potentially talk to. And so what has worked really well for me was a combination of like market update type of things. And so like my general thoughts of what's going on, also sharing the data itself. So that's been helpful. And then it is lifestyle ones, because even though somebody may live in San Francisco, a lot of people that live in San Francisco never leave San Francisco. Like they just straight up never leave that city because you don't really need to. But when you want to buy a home or you have a growing family, you may want to move out of there and find other locations. And so even the people that are local to a Bay Area still don't even know about these other cities. And so these kind of living in series has been really popular too. And so it's kind of a combination of those two. And then I guess the third pillar is also new construction. So there is some new construction, not as much as like other parts of the country, but that has also generated a good amount of conversations in business.
So the algorithms are so weird. And I think so many people get afraid to do different things, whether it's on their social media or on YouTube, because they're like, man, the living is working. It's working. I don't want to do a market update and jack it up, or I don't want to go do a home tour and jack it up. Talk about that as far as like, are we all stupid and it doesn't really matter? Or are the algorithms watching you and it could mess up your traction?
Here's a really tricky part, though, if you think about it. If we're real estate agents making videos on YouTube, our main objective is not necessarily only like hot viral videos. Mm-hmm. Because if you think about it, we will make nothing out of from an ads perspective, like an AdSense perspective, right? Through YouTube. The real only measurement is kind of secret, mm-hmm. which is who's actually how many people are actually contacting you and how many are you getting closed from that. So it's a very tricky game, because on one end, like it feels good to be like, yeah, I hit a killer video and it's like tens of thousands of views. But then at the end of the day, like, yeah, it looks cool from that perspective, but how many people actually reached out and had a conversation with you? And then you're like, all right, well, maybe this little video that had 1,000 views was actually a better funnel for that. Yeah. So it's more important it's good in the beginning when you're doing stuff to see like what are the very popular ones that can grow your channel and get the name out. But what's also equally as important, or actually more important, not even equally, is when you have someone reach out, asking them not only where did you find me, which is the bare minimum you should do, but also asking like what specific videos did mm-hmm. you watch to want to reach out to me, right? And so that will then help you be like, all right, yeah, this kind of clickbait did a ton of views, and but it didn't do anything. But like, look, even this little one was good enough and had people reach out. So I think it's really important to never lose track of like, yeah, the vanity metrics are good if there's nothing else to compare it to. But at the end of the day, the key is like what actually brings in revenue. And I'll give one other example. There are many of these videos and and other YouTubers that have really negative content, right? So they're like, the world, everything's crashing. Basically, everything is crashing. Like everything's bad. And I had a chance to talk to some of them in person to be like, look, like you got a ton of views, you got a ton of subscribers, like it's massive numbers. And I was like, can you show me a little bit of your books, like the actual what you get out of it? And the business model is different. They were doing all of that because they were actually getting a lot of views and they're getting a lot of ad revenue. So they were like, that's their game. But if you really boil down to how many clients they're getting, it was way less than me. Yeah. Right. So it's like really, you're like, this person has like probably 10x my subscribers, 10x my views, but my total is way more than this person.
Yeah.
Right. And so we fall into that trap. So just be very mindful. Like, don't worry about it too much. Think about, are you actually delivering real value to your audience and that they may not already know, or you may have just saved them time? As long as you do that over and over again, no matter how many views, you're going to get some good clients.
So I run a team as well, and I have a YouTube channel, and it's actually performing, and we go after clients, not views like you. But it rings to my team. So we're still tracking it to really see how things are going to convert down the road. Because this has just started in the past few months, but we're getting a ton of calls and it's doing well. With you, do you field the calls and then assign to your team? How does that talk about the systems? Like once somebody comes in, what happens next?
Yeah. So we have a call to action on it usually, and their main call to action, I'd love to hear from you of how you have it monitored too, is really of three kind of things. I would say the number one, 1A and 1B would be either a calendar link or it'll be a call or text number. And that call or text number is actually like a voice over IP number. So it's like a third party line. So that way, anyone that calls or texts, that will be automatically entered in the CRM, right?
Okay.
Versus if I put my own personal number, I have to then remember to manually put in the CRM, which can lead to issues. So that's like 1A, 1B. And then the third would be if they happen to send me an email, but that's usually quite a bit less. So that's kind of how like the leads come in. The lead flow of this is not like, it's not necessarily like overwhelming, at least in my market, right? I mean, I'd be very happy to get 1 or 2 contacts a week. Like that's like really good, because at the same time, like the benefit of this is like most of them are generally higher percent closing, and they're also a little bit like more down the road than most. But I don't foresee. I mean, it'll be a great problem to have like so much business that all of a sudden I can't like field it. Now, I do like to have the conversation first because I want to track and understand it, and then depending on really the area and the price point, then I determine like, is it still me to handle it, or do I pass it off to team members?
Got it. The way we do it, like we use Follow Up Boss, and there's team inboxes that each have their individual number. So we can
Okay.
track where each lead is coming in. So YouTube has the YouTube number, Facebook has the Facebook
Oh
number,
wow, that's
Google
cool.
has the Google number, and it automatically goes in the CRM as well. So I don't
Nice.
have to then put it in, and I can connect with you offline on that, and that helps. But I was just curious because
Yeah.
people are seeing your face and connecting with you, and I'm learning the struggles of, passing it off and everything. I wanted to go back to something you said before you got into YouTube, but you're like, yeah, we had a uniqueness about us that made people do word of mouth and your business naturally grew. What do you think that uniqueness is?
The uniqueness is more of that data driven approach that I brought up. And what does that mean? It means a lot more like everybody says they can do a CMA, and I've seen all these like awful automated CMAs, and that's not enough. So what we do is we take that to the next level. It's a much more manual assessment of the value, but really diving in like, all right, how does your specific home compare to these neighboring ones, condition wise, location wise, size wise, and giving them a general idea of how much it would be by really pointing it out, because we also have that background of doing flips. So we know how much things cost to remodel. We know how much things cost to get from one condition to another, because as an investor, you got to get those numbers down, right? Because you're ultimately having a lot of skin in the game. And so with that mentality, it has helped a lot of people assess, especially it's very valuable on the buyer side, because it helps them feel empowered that whatever offer they want to make, it's like there is some reasoning to it. It's not just by emotion or feeling, right? And they can see it themselves. Now, they may come up to the same exact number that we did. They may come to our advice, or we give them a range anyways, and then it's up to them where they want to fall in that range, right? So that has been a tremendous value, because then it's like, look, Spencer is like really good. He not only helps us really understand the market, he helps us make a very informed and empowered decision on every individual home, and so they feel good, like whatever they come up with, it was the right move at that time, right? And so that was a big part of success. And some people have like moved from one agent to another if they truly value that, right? And most people that if they're trying to like buy it for as low as possible but still be successful in buying, they do value that.
So you're working with a lot of tech guys. Is it a lot of engineers, that type of personality?
Yes, right. It could be engineer. Like, there's definitely a lot of engineers. There's a lot of like managers, right? And so all of those are typically going to have a little bit more of that analytical hat by nature, and so they appreciate that. But they are also very busy, right? And so they work really really long hours, like probably more than most. Like, the work life balance in the Bay is probably one of the more extreme, maybe outside of New York or something, but it's pretty significant of how many hours a week most of them are working. So they also want to do it like efficiently as much as they could to save time.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Because that is a different type of client. It's not your marketing girl or your salespeople where you get them to fall in love with the house and point out the Christmas tree. It's like, okay, no, I want to see the numbers. I want to know the age of all major components. They like spreadsheets. And if you excel there, yeah, you're going to obviously excel in a market like that.
100%. Yeah, 100%. Yeah. And I prefer that, right? Like the spreadsheet side of it, like we do a lot of those. With not every client needs it, but for many clients, like we just have a spreadsheet. We collaborate on it together. We have our thoughts and notes on it together. And so that helps them also create almost like a decision tree as to what offer they may want to make on a given week, right? So it makes everything more organized for sure.
I think a lot of agents all over the country are just having trouble with listings not moving. I don't know if it's the same in the Bay Area. Is there any special sauce of anything you guys are doing to get them move faster? Because some properties you think you're pricing absolutely right, and then they sit. And then others you're like, man, this is a little high, and then you get multiple offers. And especially I'm data driven, I nerd out on it. I don't like not knowing why one moved and the other didn't. It's very strange.
It's very strange, and I don't have a right answer for that. Fortunately, many of our listings are still moving, but everything will take longer. So I would say over the last really just this year on the listing side now too, it's everything is just a drag. Like, both buying and selling is just a drag, and I don't expect it to change anytime soon. But it's just like everything is slower. Everything is like there's just one buyer for a home these days for a lot of homes. So it's like you got to really be able to connect those dots and try and just like shepherd it across the finish line for everything.
Yeah.
There are certain things that can be done from a marketing perspective. And so that's a big part of why we do video. It's a big part of how we have open houses to like get people to really understand why this home is better than the others, because we've already done our own math and due diligence, and our goal is to try to get buyers to see such a thing, right? And so we do everything we can on that side, but at the end of the day, it's also super important to be like, this is where the discussion on pricing and also thoughts about pricing matters a lot. Because you may think that it's priced fair, and I may have thought it was priced fair until it's on the market, and then a few weeks goes by, you're like, man, it's pretty bad, or it's pretty stale. And so the most successful people are just understanding, like, look, this is not the kind of market that it's going to just keep rising indefinitely. There's actually quite a bit of price reductions. Mm-hmm. And so it's more of like showcasing like this blueprint. This is what we're going to do. If it doesn't sell in the Bay Area, this is how it works. If it doesn't sell within the first 3 weeks and there's like the traffic is like died down significantly, we have to think about and we have to do a price reduction. Like, there's no other way around that, right? The market is not going up for your overpriced home to eventually get there. So we have that discussion up front. And I have that discussion up front, quite frankly, with a lot of people. Now, the issue with that is I will lose a lot of listings for that, because I'm trying to be like, I don't want to be this person that has this expired, right? Mm-hmm. And then just lose it anyways that way, and then spend all this time and money for it. So it's a very tricky thing. But it's also kind of an interesting time too, right? Like, I had a client recently. They were like a backstory is we had this house like listed for like 1.8 as an example. The first week we got an offer for like a little bit lower, but it was a decent offer. I was like, look, this is a really decent offer. You should just accept it. And they were like very begrudgingly wanting to accept it, because they were like, we think and we hoped and we feel the home is worth more. But anyways, we did accept it. Now that buyer the buyer fizzled out anyways. They had cold feet and gave up. But then a few like weeks later, we eventually like reduced the price, and we got an offer that was much below that other offer.
Yeah.
Right. So I was accurate in the sense like that was a good offer if it materialized, but it didn't. But there was nothing we can do about that. But it's also not surprising, but it was also good that the sellers are also understanding like, look, unless you can show me a data point or something that this is going to change, this is going to keep going. Like we're going to have to keep reducing until we find the balance of like where the buyer is at.
Yeah.
Right. And so they're hard conversations. They're never easy. But those that are understand, like, look, it's not, unless you think there's something else I could do too, right? Like if there's really something else I can do, then I'm happy to do it. But they also know like we have exhausted all the marketing side of things. The only thing left is unless you want to spend a ton of money to repair, like redo a home, like remodel a home, it's just a price balance.
Yep.
And so most that work with me and sign with me understand that. And so, we've gotten many that unfortunately was well below the previous list, but it's the reality and it was the market.
That might be something nice being in that tech space where people do understand graphs and numbers and are not as emotional. And I'm sure you still have your emotional ones, but if you say, yeah, please show me data that supports that it can sell for more. And probably that type of personality is like, well, nope, I can't show you any data. Let's go. So I think that's pretty cool.
Yeah, no, 100%. And we're very fortunate too in the Bay because things in general move quickly. So if you think about like the thought of a price reduction versus like another area, maybe like in Florida or Texas where the average days is much longer, at least it's all condensed, right? So that thought that comes up is more condensed of, all right, this is the first milestone. This is time to think. Like, what do you want to do? And so that's we're very fortunate for that it's just all condensed in terms of when is that like checkpoint.
So I have a question for maybe someone that's newer to real estate or, just newer than we are. And they're thinking, hey, I want to do the YouTube thing. I want to be like you, Spencer. And now there's a lot of people doing it. What would be your like best advice to them as far as here's what your channel looks like, here's how long they need to be, all that stuff?
I think the key is there's a lot of people doing YouTube and there's more than before for sure, but it's still like big enough where you don't have to be that broad. Like you can be very specific. It could be city specific. It could be county specific. And there could be different angles of it. Or quite frankly, you may say that a very similar thing to me, but they may choose you over me for their own personal reasons, right? Like I have a specific demeanor. I have a specific personality type and I look a certain way. They may not like that. They may love that. I don't know. Like that's not my control. Like I'm trying to find my own tribe, as anyone that's making content or anyone that's growing a business is trying to find their own tribe. So I would say don't let that discourage you, number one. Number two, you have to be really consistent though, right? Like this is the difference of YouTube versus like spending money on like a ads or Zillow is the reverse. When you spend money on like a Zillow or ads, you get a bunch of leads. Now they don't know who the hell you are, but at least you get those leads and your goal is to try to work them. Versus YouTube is the reverse, right? You're basically building content for YouTube to ultimately place you in front of the right people. And that is kind of doing the sales work for you. And eventually down the road, you'll have people that come to you that want to have a conversation and want you to help them. So it's a very different trajectory. And so for YouTube, the benefit is the longer it is, the one, your skills get better, but also you get placed better. And so that's its own kind of mentality to have. So you have to like be sure that you're going to be consistent, at least a video a week. The longer, the better. Actually, the algorithm changes a lot, but the idea is nowadays, like the longer, the better. So a lot of people that are doing well are actually 10 plus, 15 plus minute videos. So you also have to figure out like, what can I say for that long that can still get somebody to stick around. Right.
And so
go ahead.
Do you have an editor?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
Okay.
No, I wouldn't edit any of these videos. It's definitely not the best use of time. Yeah. So the idea is like figuring out what the right videos are. And then I have an editor, or you would have an editor that would do all of these videos every week, because there's no reason for you to do that. And then it's all about also the packaging side of it. And so we still think about that up front, but we also still play around with that afterwards once you get the data that comes in. So as you can see, it's like it is complicated. There's a lot of things to do. This is part of the reason why actually I wanted to also come back on the show. We have created a program about it. And so if anyone's interested, then they're happy to talk to me about that. It's not an agency, because there's so many different models there. There are some that are just pure learning. There are some that are agency models where they'll do the whole thing for you, but obviously it'll be way more expensive. Those are thousands of dollars a month. And then there's like my model, which is kind of the hybrid, which is like, all right, what are the best videos you should be doing from your respective market? What are the scripts to use? How do you find the editor? How do you package it? And then like having a direct line with me. So like those are all, that's my approach to it, because YouTube has completely changed my life, not just the business. I mean, I'm very fortunate. Like I'm in a completely different wealth category because of real estate, and YouTube has been part of it. But the beauty of YouTube is like you can create for the people that you aspire to be around, right? That's the unique part. Like I'm even though I'm in the Bay Area and we're at a higher price point, that doesn't mean anything. Like there's plenty of people in the Bay Area, but doesn't mean like they're all in the price points that they are at or want to be at or they could be at, right? So with YouTube, my average price point from that lead source is the highest out of everything, right? Because my circle is not that today. Now my circle is growing to that, and my wealth is already at that level. But this is like the way to get into that market versus like if you're like farming or like joining a country club or something, right? Yeah. And so that's the really like amazing thing about this is like you can be the person you want to be because you're just making content in that area, right? And so that's a really cool thing. And also like if you think about it, those people that are reaching out via YouTube, obviously they have not already, if they already knew people that were in the industry, they wouldn't reach out to you generally, right? And so there are people that were usually unrepresented and they need somebody to trust. And so they are some of my best clients like today in terms of like we continue to have dinners. I'm actually flying out to 2 of their weddings this year. Like I'm literally going to Vietnam next week for a client's wedding. That's awesome. And I'm going to India for another client's wedding. And both of them are clients that bought first. And then they obviously invited us to the wedding, which is pretty amazing.
So how can people find you?
The easiest way to find me is just simply Googling me, just finding me. You can find me everywhere online, just Spencer Hsu. You'll be able to connect with me on Instagram. Probably Instagram is the best way. I have a few Instagram pages, but if you find any of them, maybe my main one is at Spencer Hsu RE. Then you can always DM me and you can connect with me that way.
Okay, cool. And yeah, it sounds like your program would be really great for people that are wanting to learn how to do this so they don't have to reinvent the wheel. You've already 100%. Invented it and doing all that. Yes. Well, thank you so much. This has been awesome.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for the opportunity.
All righty. Well, have a good day and we will chat soon.
Thank you.